Greetings, nerds. This is SNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How you doing this Thursday evening?
I'm doing great. It's kind of bittersweet, though, because, I mean, we're going to talk Loki in a few minutes, but we're not going to have a recording for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be able to talk about Loki again for 2 weeks.
I know. It's funny how scheduling works out whenever we, plan breaks and stuff. But yeah, and especially given that first episode, I was just thinking last night as I was watching it, man, I can't wait. It's gonna be hard. I was like, maybe we should do like a Twitter like meet up or something like that while we're on hiatus, just to like do a 5-minute. What do you think about that episode of Loki?
There are so many thoughts. I don't think Twitter has these character limits that prevent us from getting them out completely. But so that's just a reminder to everyone listening that don't be surprised. You're not going to get an episode for 2 weeks, but we will be back. We just have some obligations we have to do, and we need some breaks. Speaking about breaks in Marvel, Lizzie Olsen did confirm that Wandavision is only a limited series, so do not expect and theorize about a second season.
Nope. She made it very clear. She was on a, I guess Variety does an actors on actors show, and she was a Kaylee Cuoco from Flight Attendant, and of course Big Bang Theory, and they were gushing over each other's shows basically. And so Kaylee asked the question, well, when are you guys starting to film season 2? And Lizzie, yes, as you noted, confirmed that yes, indeed, it is a limited series. And she actually I guess she even made that point before the series even started. But everybody was just very hopeful that this was going to be a situation where public demand would encourage Marvel to do a second season, but I think it's going to be like The Watchmen. It's just only going to be the one.
Yeah, everyone was very hopeful about a second season, about Mephisto.
Yeah,
which seems to be the biggest everybody MCU joke now.
Yep. Everybody wants Mephisto to show up. Even I mean, I saw Mephisto trending yesterday as far as like with Loki. So I mean, folks, maybe at some point in phase 4 or 5 you'll get him, but anyway.
I never knew Mephisto had such a large fan base.
I didn't either.
He's got a borderline BTS army on him.
Totally.
Like Jesus. Oh man. But before we talk about Loki and all of his charms, we do have all of our CW shows aired this week, and I'm going to start with the one that I probably have the least to really talk about, but The Flash said goodbye to Cisco this week.
Yeah, The Flash did say goodbye to Cisco this week. Carlos Valdez is leaving the show, as we've talked about before, and this episode, this episode was his, I guess, the goodbye episode, even though he is coming back for the penultimate and the finale for this 7th season.
It's so weird. It was such a weird episode. And now that you told me he's going to make 2 more appearances later this season, it makes this one feel even like more cringy.
So, the first 30 minutes of the episode, I was just like, oh, here we go, season 7. Mm-hmm. The back half, I felt like I was almost getting season 1 vibes, because we did have that original Team Flash dynamic back, and it really, really drove home the point how this show has, in the last 3 seasons, really abandoned that.
Yeah.
I mean, seeing Barry, Caitlin, and Cisco together. Obviously they were trying to put on a brave face at the beginning of the episode, but whenever they did get back into that old Team Flash original Team Flash vibe, I was just like, man, what the series could be if they just really kept that core and just built stories around them, because I just felt cheated, quite honestly, and disappointed that we haven't seen that while I was watching the episode.
Right. I knew it was going to go downhill the moment it was like, I leave tomorrow. I'm like,
yeah.
What the fuck?
Yes.
That's so weird.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I mean, basically, how they've characterized Cisco the last few seasons. I mean, he's just. I mean, it seems that Carlos had one foot out the door since. I mean, we've been hearing these rumors since season 4 or 5 anyway. And given that Barry and Caitlin are his best friends, you don't drop that kind of shit on your friends the day before you leave. If they're your best friends, you're talking to, you even also just to prepare Chester to take over Star Labs. I mean, you don't give him a 24 hours notice that, okay, here's the key to the archive and figure it all out. I mean, it was just, again, and that was, again, the really shoddy storytelling that we've seen this 7th season, as far as just the way they've executed some of these episodes. Right. But I think, but then, like I said, on the back half, that's when you did get the original vibe, and I did feel some moments, and and as a fan of the show, I mean, whenever I saw the montage of Cisco and some of the highlights throughout the 7 years, I did get emotional. I mean, in a sense that I was sad to see him go, and I was sad that, I think I was mourning the how this was what it used to be like, my show, and now it's kind of like, oh yeah, I need. It's almost like I feel obligated to watch it more so than like where I used to feel it was like appointment TV, where I like shut off Twitter and didn't want to like get spoiled. Now I'm just like, if I get spoiled, no big deal.
Yeah. No, I hear you. There's something about Flash where I've really despised a lot of the choices they've made over the past few seasons. Mm-hmm. And I do remember when we first heard the rumor about Cisco leaving years ago, about around the same time The Rock announced he was going to be Black Adam, if I'm
Yep. And now they both come to fruition.
but it's so weird to me, because watching this episode, and especially the flashbacks, all I could think was like, this is a story of how it all goes downhill. You're right. The 3 of them had such great chemistry, and the show was built around them. But then, for whatever reason, suddenly Caitlin and Cisco were metas. Mm-hmm. And ever since they really went all meta, mm-hmm. it's never been the same. Yeah, it continues to keep diluting itself again and again, and we kind of knew the signs even last season with the introductions of Allegra and Chester, and you're kind of like, oh, okay, we get what's interesting. Mm-hmm. When Carlos has other things to do, or Danielle gets pregnant, I see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
But I'm just also now curious, when is it gonna be Grant wants to walk away?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. And that was the other thing too. One thing I did enjoy, even though I know a lot of people cringe with it, but I actually liked the breakdancing, because it was again, Grant just seemed to be just free and just happy and not always playing mopey Barry. So that was welcoming to see, even though it was very goofy and but it had that, but it was that goofy balance that they had from the earlier seasons, right. when we had that. So I like that. But you're right, the question does become, especially given that he's going to be a father soon, and I know that Steven had talked about this whenever he was on Michael Rosenbaum and some other places, that commute between Vancouver and Los Angeles, like when does other things and also that's that creative itch to want to do something else start to kick in, and he may want to start stepping back from the show as well. I mean, we know he has, I think, signed through at least season 8, and I think from what I gather, he's talked about going the distance like Supernatural did, but things may change, especially if creatively the show gets stale. Because I mean, that's part of the reason why Carlos left.
Yeah. Moving on to Batwoman. Yeah, let's do Batwoman.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since we've talked Batwoman because they have these weird hiatuses. Welcome to the CWverse. And I honestly, I kid you not, Will, I completely forgot about Luke being shot. I started the episode and I was like, oh yeah, now I get exactly where we were. I have very mixed feelings about this episode. I have mixed feelings because I liked a lot of the decisions they made with these characters.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were interesting and unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
Simultaneously, I wish that it was story-wise, I wish they allocated maybe another 10-15% to Luke in this standoff between dying and living. Mm-hmm. I felt, as much as I thought that the I don't want to say twist because I don't think it's really a twist, but I really thought it was an interesting character choice for him to get to that point where he fully wants to just be like, no, I'm done with this. I'm not going back. I'm going to be with my father, and there's nothing, like, it doesn't matter. It's pointless.
Mm-hmm.
I really respect that. I just felt like it almost we got there too quickly with him, and I needed maybe like a few more scenes. I kept getting distracted anytime we would jump in there and he would see his father, and then they would cut away, and then next thing you know, Bruce is there for some weird reason, and then like it just felt very choppy, and I think that they would have earned it more for me had we spent just a little bit more time there.
Yeah, I agree with that point. I felt, especially how whenever, after he was given the Desert Rose, and had the choice at that point to go, well, actually the choice was taken away from him at that point. And I think, so to your point, I think it would have been better if they had given it just a few more minutes of screen time, because when they took his agency away to make that decision, it did, while the moment was still powerful, especially the conversations that that he had with Bruce, where Bruce was like, there are plenty, and we see this in the real world all the time whenever these shootings happen, where they villainize the person who's been shot, and instead of like looking at the totality of the circumstances.
Right.
So when Bruce tells him, there's people out there who wish you were dead because you're black, and Cameron and Luke has his feeling like, where he's just like, I'm done, I'm exhausted, this world, I don't need it anymore. You're right. If they hadn't cut it back and forth so much and gave that a little bit more time to breathe, then when Mary and when they had given him the Desert Rose to take that choice away from him, then it removing his agency like that, it kind of undercut the more powerful moment of the decision that he made. Even though he made the decision, he was done. But we you know, they took the shortcut by giving him the drug so that, you know, we'll still get this baptism by fire that will encourage him to become Batwing, which we got this look at that dope ass suit that he's going to be wearing this week.
It was funny because
Yeah.
I finished watching the episode, and I think I might have sent you a message at that point about having mixed feelings.
Yeah.
And then I immediately look at my timeline and I see him all dressed up in Batwing.
Yeah.
I'm like, now, you know, it made sense, but I didn't understand why. Now I do. I get where we're going. And now that I'm thinking about it, this season, Luke has had a very peculiar path, because I remember at the beginning of the season, we kept talking about how he was so freaking mopey over Kate.
Yep.
Mopey, more so than anybody else, including Jacob Kane.
Yep.
And he had all this weird friction with Ryan. But I guess that all led to the previous week's episode and his choice to intervene in that moment. And then his choice here to say, like, it's pointless. No, it's at this point, it's easier to just stay dead because I'm done. Which is also weird because if I remember correctly, in a fairly recent episode, he was doing some smooching with someone, and
he was. Yep.
Where was she?
Yeah. You know, she may return. She may return.
Yeah. But beyond that and Batwing, which now I'm worried, like, do not, writers, if you're listening, I know you are.
Yeah.
For love of God, do not make Mary into a Batgirl person thing.
No.
Okay? We need normal people on these shows.
Yes. Just as we were just talking about the Flash, don't turn everybody into superheroes and the metas. We need normal folk.
Yep. The other thing that they did at the very end is Alice enters the parking garage, which, you know, I can't believe I missed that joke. It's been like in our faces for so long, and it's like, it really is sad how often she gets into that parking garage.
Yeah.
And it looks like she's gonna convince Daddy to help her take down Black Mask and get Kate, quote unquote, back.
Yeah, it looks like it. I guess earlier in the episode, she was going through Dr. Enigma's files and, you know, basically found the connection between the families, and of course made an enemy of the Riddler by killing the Riddler's daughter. So, so that was a nice little drop in the episode too, just with the larger Bat universe. But so we see that, and I guess the whole reason why he was in the parking garage and is, with the crows being dismantled because of all the Tavernovs and other cover-ups that Sophie helped convince Kane to finally come clean, which I'm hoping they pick up on that as well with the ramifications of what Jacob did as director of the Crows, because I felt that the press conference was and was just too clean, right? Given what they all have done, and also and also thinking about Ryan, she's a victim of the Crows and their crookedness. So so I'm really hoping that they pick up on that some as well, and not just drop it like, okay, we're done, and then only corruption in Gotham is just Gotham police force. I mean, there's because all those Tavernov, if they stick to form, if they introduce in Batwing and setting up this dynamic between him and Luke, I mean, he's Menace in the comics, so all those ex-Crows are going to go somewhere. So unless they all got arrested, but we know how Arkham is. People get out of there all the time. So
yeah, no, it's a good point that the episode also had me very, very much wondering for both Sophie and Jacob, like, okay, how are they gonna, beyond this whole thing with Alice and Kate, where are those characters going to go in terms of protecting Gotham? Because again, we do not need more bat people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have Batwoman, you have Batwing.
Yep.
And we know there may be another Batman out there somewhere. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But we don't need more bat. I can't say it enough.
Yeah, we don't need more bat. We don't need more bat. And we don't need Alice to be anti-hero. We, just
that's another do not go Killer Frost on Alice, please.
Yeah. Even though I trust the Batwoman writers to do anti-hero better than they've done on the Flash, but Alice is better as do whatever they need to do with this partnership that she and Jacob have, and they find Kate and bring Kate back to her senses, and I guess after that Kate will go be like Bruce and disappear, and
will she?
That's a good. I don't know if Wallace's contract with the show is just for the season or more. Well, I guess I'll have to look into that. Maybe when we return, I'll have an answer for you.
It might be dependent on, because she hasn't gotten a lot of screen time. She really hasn't.
No, she hasn't.
So we haven't really seen the chemistry that could exist between her and Ryan, or between her and Alice even. Or so it might be dependent on just fan reaction towards the end of this year when they really wrap up that loose end on if she stays or if she goes. And again, we don't need more bat people, because
exactly.
I'm feeling if she stays, she's gonna be someone.
Yep.
So, or maybe she's just gonna be this person who is a Wells and just comes and goes as she pleases.
Maybe, and maybe they may make Kate just recurring, and that depending, again, I guess a lot depends, like you said, on how this story ends up this season, and also just fan reaction. But I don't think they should go back to her being Batwoman. I mean, it's solidly Ryan's now, and I like what they're doing with Ryan as Batwoman. And carving out their own, using the source material and carving out their own universe here on the CW.
Right. And I mean, the writers really should be looking at, for both Flash and Batwoman, at Superman and Lois, and how the main crux of this show and why this show is working so beautifully is because you have two family members with no powers and two family members with powers. And that is making very, very new and refreshing angles on how these heroes and being a hero with powers, and also even an alien, so to speak, that impact on family dynamics that are already very complicated. So on that note, Superman and Lois this week, not the best episode, but I liked it. I liked the Kryptonian twist on COVID-19.
Yeah.
Very unexpected. Very subtle.
Yeah, I guess whenever they had to adjust for their bumped up production schedule and then having to pause because of COVID, they definitely used some real world elements and integrated that into the story.
At what point did you know that, I forget his name, Kyle, had clearly gone under this process to becoming a Kryptonian?
They actually got me on that one.
Me too.
Yeah, they actually got me on that one. I'm just going to be completely honest because but I love the way they set this up.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but just really just several things they set up. So let's take the Kyle angle first, because I also want to talk about Sarah, the daughter, and Jordan and Lana and the alcoholism that Kyle has, because
Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle, and they really did a good job of setting this up, because he was just dogged, determined to work for Edge, and Lana was like, no, pushing back, and then they had their little blow up about it, and then he just always listen to the wife. Don't guys, always listen to the wife, because she was right, but he went behind her back and met with Edge, and then we see what happens from that. And I was really whenever he showed up at the barn, I was not expecting him to turn on Jonathan and Lois like that, but that was a good little twist, more so than the twist at the end.
Yeah, you're spot on with that. Like, the setup from the moment that he drives Sarah to school, and she just looks and says, "My dad's been acting weird." Like, that should have been a clue.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, the writers really have allowed themselves to drop those hints, but then get distracted because you have Kryptonian boy sneezing ice all over the place. You have still some fallout from even last week's episode with Lois and Jonathan. And then you also have a very interesting moment with Clark being a father again, and being a father of someone with his powers, and that vulnerability. So that though, then, because we have been following Jordan and Sarah with this talent show in preparation, and knowing that her dad wasn't there the last time, and then he saves the day this time, like, they're playing chess, and I'm just watching it as if they're playing checkers. And
yeah, and this goes, I thought about this, especially with the Kryptonian twist, with Ex-Kryptonite, and basically why Edge is so invested in Smallville, and how with all the Kryptonian things, and I when I looked at the creative staff on this show, a lot of them are folks from Krypton,
right?
And and so they're very steeped in the mythos of Superman, and using some of those story beats and themes that we got from that show integrated into this, and which is why we love that show so much, is because we had this very, like you said, we're so used to like checkers with some of these CW shows, that they're playing chess with these characters.
Yeah. They know exactly how to move different characters to set them up to have these amazing interactions, and to move to still feel like we're progressing. Like, there is a goal at the end of the year that we're reaching, and they're just moving us along at their speed.
Yeah, and also getting past this thing of like just having head fakes as far as the big bad, because remember when we first started this series, we were like so convinced, Captain Luthor, he's that's the big bad, and then nope, we figure you out, actually he's John Henry Irons, and the reason why he's here is to warn Earth Prime about this, this army of Kryptonians who could destroy your world.
I like how you say warn. He wanted to kill Superman. Okay?
Yeah. Well, he wanted. Yeah. He wanted to kill Superman. Yeah. Well, and also, well, he was warning everybody. He was warning Lois, but also he wanted to kill Superman for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that's Edge is that character we're very used to seeing in these shows, especially as a big bad. And why I've allowed him to exist, yes, I say that. I've allowed him to exist on the show is because they really made it clear from the beginning he is after Lois. So in this episode in particular, when he says, I'm not after Superman right now. I'm after the one he protects. I was like, yes, you are. We know. It makes sense. So I still think there are stronger episodes this season, but this one definitely pushes us forward with a clear trajectory for the remaining episodes this season.
Yeah. And then, of course, and the reveal at the end, it wasn't a knock me out of my seat reveal like how Kyle was, but it was more like, oh, I like where they're going with this. And then, of course, all the speculation is now, he is Kryptonian. So is this going to be our another version of General Zod?
Mm-hmm.
Or is Edge going to be, when he says brother, I don't think it's like, I think it took it more as more countrymen than blood relatives. But taken from Krypton, we know Segel did sire Drew Zod. So if they decide to use the story beats from that series,
I don't know.
I would be happy if they did but obviously then they gotta explain why he's a white dude now instead of dark skin. But they could retcon it somehow if they wanted to go that route. But or Edge may just be just another person from Krypton and
he's clearly a time variant. I really just think that's what's happening here. And I mean, retcon is such a harsh word these days, considering how much retcon is going on in the MCU.
Yeah, true.
I like how with the DC, like to say retcon, it's almost a curse word. And then with Marvel, we're at this point where it's like, yep. Bring it on. Read it all up. Oh, man. Loki. Yeah. Loki. Okay. I remember watching the trailer long time ago, instantly being like, this show is going to be awesome. And I really like this premiere, and I like this weird simplicity of this premiere episode. Because there wasn't, I mean, especially when we look at Falcon and Winter Soldier, from the get-go, that show opened up with these big fight sequences, a lot of CGI, and a lot of just action. This episode, surprisingly, had a few moments like that to get Loki into the TVA, and then we just stayed there.
Yeah.
And I was looking and I was thinking to myself, for whatever reason, and well, I know, like Tom Hiddleston and Owen Wilson, amazing actors, great chemistry. But mainly this episode is just them talking.
Yeah.
Talking.
Yeah. It was it was like the buddy cop thing that everyone expected for Falcon and Winter Soldier, but we got it here in Loki.
But I don't even know if it's buddy cop so much, because this episode was about this interrogation as if they were friends.
Yeah.
Weird. And I could not get over the simplicity of it all, and just how Loki, and watching those trailers, you really, there's going to be a lot of spectacle to come this season, and a lot of mischief. But to introduce it, I thought it was such a smart decision to really make sure, because we are dealing with time, and we are dealing with this new force that nobody knew about it, including Loki. the TVA. So they had to introduce the TVA. They also had to make us start to understand more about Loki and his pathos and where we're going with this all. So I don't know. I could stay rambling, but Will, what are your thoughts?
Oh no, I love your thoughts, because you're right. I mean, this episode did have to do several things. One, it had to introduce a TVA, because to date we haven't heard any inklings about this organization in the MCU.
Right.
So yes, there was the requisite exposition, but it was exposition done very well. I mean, if you want to take it from a technical standpoint of a show and almost like a procedural kind of thing. I mean, this is how you can do that, and I'll tell you that the 50 minutes like zip by.
Yep.
I was like, oh, it's done, because it was just executed so well, as far as just the structure of the show, as far as getting in. Go ahead.
Sorry, I just was gonna ask. So did the TVA steal the concept for their introduction video from what we were shown in Thor Ragnarok when Thor was introduced to? I forget that, but remember he goes through that like device. Welcome.
Oh yeah. Yep. Oh yeah.
Who copied who? I just want to know, because
I want to know that too.
I thought it was really smart. But continue.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And maybe that was the hint. That's maybe we got there, but then the you have the introduction of TVA. You again, the reminding us of the Loki, the Loki we're seeing now is not the Loki that we saw it with Endgame. So yes, he is the Loki that we saw just right after the Battle of New York, after getting his ass handed to him by the Hulk and everyone. And so you're right. I mean, that it gave Hiddleston, and it gives us as fans the opportunity to, we know how Loki has ended, but now we got to sort of reverse the clock, like they were doing all the time when somebody would get up and then jank him back. We're having to do that now to remember the Loki we were introduced in the Thor, and then also in the Avengers. So seeing him, and when they had those scenes of him seeing the events that had unfolded in Thor: Dark World with his adopted mother, and then of course his demise at the hands of Thanos, it really helped remind me of, like, again, how interconnected this universe is, how rich a tapestry that they have painted with the MCU as far as the storytelling, and then just all the things with with the story itself, like how to introduce the TVA and how bureaucratic it is, and just the vibe. It was like, felt like you were at the DMV, like waiting for your driver's license whenever after he got like checked in, and draw a number, and you're just like, you're like, oh hell, granted it was, thankfully,
he's what I think on that point, what was smart is, it's not only introducing of TVA, but it's like, no, Loki, you are the god outside of this place, but inside, you're almost just merely mortal. Like, there were a lot of places during the first 15 minutes, to the gag about, well, I think I have a soul. I think I'm not a robot.
Yeah.
What happens if I am a robot? Oh my God. Like, no. And in those moments, it's played for a laugh, But underneath that joke, it's this reminder to Loki, you're a god, but you are mortal, and you do have this humanity which makes you more vulnerable. And then if you take that information, that is what makes those final moments with him and this realization, or this this moment of honest self retrospection or introspection that he has about everything that he has done and will do and why he's doing it. It just comes full circle in such a beautiful way.
It does.
And which is really clever, because he, for what, 10 years has been walking around all high and mighty, like, I'm a god, and I have a brother who is also a god, but they kind of had to, like, literally take off his clothes and be like, no, you're nothing but a man.
Yeah. And they humbled him because, and because we learn this, whenever we are introduced to the machine and they're interrogating him, it's like, it's Loki Laughlinson. And so, but there's, to your point about how they stripped away everything from him. Remember, Loki's adopted by Odin, and his father was Laughlinson. It was another king, and he was left in the battlefield, and Odin took pity on him and adopted him.
Right.
And so, because Thor's Thor Odinson, but Loki's Loki Laughlinson, and it's just another reminder about your, just stripping of his demeanor and his his haughtiness, like you were saying, because but for Odin taking sympathy on you, you just be this kid on you would be nothing.
Yeah, and I've listened to a few different reactions and reviews about this episode, and I've heard some complaints, or not even complaints, but just they are walking a really fine line with the introduction of the TVA, to the point where Loki's powers didn't work. The Infinity Stones are used as paperweights. What the heck happens if Thanos ever enters? So you're suddenly introduced to this very larger than life power, and there's a great exchange between Mobius and Loki about fate, time, and destiny and choice and free will. And which they're so going to talk about more, and I'm going to be fascinated by that dialogue, because a lot of what I've heard is like, yeah, but it kind of diminishes everything that we've seen play out with the MCU, because it was all supposed to happen that way. Like, there is somebody else making these decisions, and I understand the point.
Yeah.
I think, though, that is a sign this episode did exactly what it was supposed to do, because that is all Loki heard when he was introduced to the TVA. That is all he's heard, and that is all he saw. He saw the power, and he heard the fact that everything he's been working for has all been according to someone else's plans.
Yeah.
And so his achievements are not his. And that is such a great place to put him in, especially with the final reveal of the episode.
Yeah, you're right, and it's interesting that people would have issue with it. And as I was watching the episode and hearing Miss Minutes, with the PSA to introduce him into this, and the whole timeline and stuff, and I couldn't help but think back to Doctor Strange, and also thinking back to Endgame with the whole time explanation as far as how they went back to reset the events to in order to get the stones and stuff. You know, I think basically, it gets really into the philosophical thing as far, like you said, really question of, do we have free will or is our destiny preordained?
Yeah.
And so and Loki witnessing that and then seeing his, like you said, his introspection when he saw what was preordained to come.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mobius giving him the option to, hey, we have this situation that you might be able to help us with.
Do we ever?
Yeah. We have an offer you can't refuse.
Yeah. Did you think that that variant would end up being Loki?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. I never, that thought never crossed my mind.
Yeah, it didn't cross my mind. I didn't think it was Mephisto. But,
yeah.
Maybe Kang, because I know there were some references to I can't remember her name, the Enforcer. Mm-hmm. I think has some tie-ins to Kang the Conqueror. Mm-hmm. No, with it being Loki as the Loki basically hunting down Loki. I mean, but who better to who to do that than the god of mischief?
It's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I always, I mean, we're dealing with time travel. Mm. We're dealing with a superhero universe. And we're also dealing with now, well, if I correct this, what happens here, and the whole butterfly effect. And mm-hmm. So it really is going to be interesting how this all plays out. Even if a lot of us think we already know where it's going. Just rewatch WandaVision. It wasn't Mephisto. So remember, just when you think you know what Kevin Feige's going to do, he does something else.
Yeah, because as soon as everybody saw, like when everybody went back to 1580, whatever year it was, and they were in the church and trying to figure out, they were talking to the kid. You see the stained glass and it's the devil. Right. Everybody's minds was like, boom, that's it. It's just like, cue the Leonardo DiCaprio meme of pointing to a TV screen because, I'm sure that, that's why Mephisto was like trending on Twitter for like, as part of Loki Wednesday and everything else, because folks just jumped to that. And the creators of the show are like, nope, that was just coincidence. There's nothing, there's no there. But thinking about the interconnected nature of the MCU, the Nexus came up again. Mm-hmm. We saw that in WandaVision, and
there was the whole reference to a nightmare department.
Yep. There was which I think which is I think tied to Doctor Strange. So there's all these in-universe things that they're just dropping little breadcrumbs for us, and I'm just going to just sit back and enjoy it for what it is, and not try to go into crazy theory spiraling. I mean, my Marvel knowledge is not as deep as it is for DC, but
Thank God, you would ruin everything for me.
No. Well, you know what? To all those people who see, I'm glad. But even if I did have it, I see the MCU as it's its own universe, because they're not trying to adapt Secret Wars or some of these other seminal story arcs. I mean, they make it their own. I mean, it was Civil War, but they made it their own. So they're doing, yeah. So so I'm just going to sit back and enjoy it for what it is, and try to find a box of Loki Charms cereal that's going for like $100 on eBay now. So
I mean, to that point, on just sitting back and enjoying it, they make it really easy, because even though, again, we were predominantly trapped in this one space, go figure. So was he.
Yeah.
The set design to the smallest detail felt just so meticulous and very creative and very different, and very eye-catching. So when you're just watching two people talk for 40 minutes, you constantly are looking at different things and just like, oh my God, the freaking detail.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, Owen freaking Wilson.
Yeah, we haven't talked about him yet. Yeah.
I really do adore Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston's chemistry. But can I just call a spade a spade?
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth, not the best actor when he's doing anything else but Thor. Therefore, it was really refreshing to see Tom Hiddleston play off of someone that is more at his level, arguably. Just the dramatic chops, because their banter was just and I don't know where Owen Wilson went. I'm so glad he's back. I'm glad he's doing TV. I'm glad he's in the MCU. And no, he's not Mephisto. But I really just adored watching them just on the same level as much as I adore Sam Mackie and Sebastian go at it with their scenes. I love it. Oh, and the music. Oh, the music. Sorry, I just had to put that out there. The genius of incorporating a ticking clock into the score of this show. Give that person an Emmy.
Give him a I mean, just go ahead and for your consideration, drop it in there, because that score was just everything about it. I mean, the score, the opening credit, the end credits. I mean, they weren't overly long like what we saw with like Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision. I mean, those things were great too. But you're right, the banter and the chemistry. I mean, even like, the story of how with Thor, speaking of Thor and Hemsworth and Loki and just the joke of, losing the bet and attention to detail with the DB Cooper thing.
Yep.
I mean, and that's just one example of given that we are playing in the sandbox of time travel, what things they can do. And I know there's like been the still photos of Loki. It looks like he's in an election somewhere. So with this suit on and stuff. So I love that DB Cooper sequence. I mean, I was like, I wonder how because whenever he was sitting there, I was like, I wonder where they're gonna go with this. And then I was like, it's DB Cooper.
Right.
And then just sort of how that mystery got solved with that in the story. And so I wonder how they'll integrate other real world things like that where the TVA had some hands in and trying to correct those events. So and making sure they go the right way. So there's just so much potential with this show that we will get. I'm glad that I was worried when they with all the reviewers and stuff, it was like they had given screeners to people in the first 2 episodes. So I was like, oh boy, I was hoping. I'm glad they didn't do like a double drop this week. I'm glad they're spacing it out because it really gives that first episode the opportunity to breathe and set things up, like you said.
Yeah, my one complaint is I wish in the reel of Loki and understanding decision making that they would have shown when he tricked Thor and became a snake and then bit him.
Oh yeah.
I just think that the callback to that reference that needs to happen at some point this season, because that's just a classic story between brothers. Personal opinion. But yeah, looking forward to Loki. I'm very glad I did not watch any I remember the original trailer dropping. I
Mhm.
don't think I have seen any other trailers.
Yeah. I watched
and so I really came into this fresh.
Yeah. I watched the subsequent ones, but it didn't impact my viewing of it. I think of the three series that we've gotten on Disney Plus now, I will say that this by far, as far as the first episode out of the gate, it's been my favorite. And I'm not saying that as Prisoner in a Moment, because you know how much I like Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
But this was because I didn't know. I was pleasantly surprised because I honestly did not know what we were going to get with this show.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I think if we are just comparing premiere episodes, this is my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, yeah, and we'll see what happens with the rest of this season. I mean, I may end up loving it more, or maybe like, oh man, they really missed the boat. They shot the bed on this one, but yeah, this definitely was my favorite, and yeah, I mean, if they keep doing this, I mean, who needs movies? Just give me a
Thank you.
Disney Plus movie series like every 2 or 3 months. I'll be fine with that.
Yeah, and that's why Black Widow is not going to be as good as everyone wants it to be. But on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at Will M Polk. That's WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd, friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, but most importantly, rate, follow, comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.